What if the key to unshakable confidence and razor-sharp focus wasn't some modern self-help trend, but an ancient philosophy tested by warriors, leaders, and thinkers for thousands of years? Picture this: Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That simple but profound truth is the heartbeat of Stoicism, a way of thinking that turns everyday challenges into opportunities for growth. And here's the best part: it's not just about lofty ideas. Stoicism gives you real, practical drills to train your mind like an athlete trains their body. Think about the last time stress knocked you off balance, or self-doubt made you hesitate when you needed to speak up. What if you had a mental toolkit to face those moments with calm clarity and unbreakable resolve? That's exactly what we're diving into today: 30 powerful Stoic drills designed to sharpen your mental edge and amplify your assertiveness. These aren't abstract theories, they're battle-tested exercises used by everyone from gladiators to modern CEOs. Whether you're dealing with a high-pressure job, navigating tough relationships, or just trying to stay grounded in a chaotic world, these practices will help you respond, not react, with purpose and poise. This video is your roadmap to building that kind of unshakable inner strength. We'll start with foundational drills to rewire your mindset, then move into advanced techniques for mastering emotions and commanding respect. Each step is designed to fit seamlessly into your daily routine, because Stoicism isn't about escaping life, it's about thriving in the midst of it. By the end, you'll have a complete playbook to transform obstacles into fuel, fear into action, and uncertainty into unwavering confidence. So if you're ready to train your mind like the Stoics did, with discipline, courage, and relentless focus, then let's begin. The first Stoic drill is all about mastering your mornings, because how you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Think of it like this: a sculptor doesn't just grab a chisel and start hacking away at marble. They step back, study the stone, and plan each strike with intention. That's exactly what the Stoics did with their minds. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it bluntly: some things are within our control, and some things are not. Your morning reflection is where you draw that line before the chaos of the day blurs it. Seneca took this even further, writing, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Imagine treating every sunrise like a blank page, not just another item on your to-do list. Here's how to put this into action. As soon as you wake up, take 5 minutes to write down 3 things firmly within your control today. Maybe it's your attitude during a tough meeting, your focus during a workout, or how patiently you listen to a loved one. The key: keep it concrete. Instead of vaguely promising to stay calm, pinpoint the moment you'll need that calm, like when your coworker interrupts you for the 3rd time. Now contrast that with how most people start their day: scrolling through news feeds, reacting to notifications, letting outside noise dictate their mental state. The Stoics would call that handing over your reins to the world. But when you begin with reflection, you're not just planning your day, you're reclaiming your power. So tomorrow, before you reach for your phone, reach for a notebook instead. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I can own today that will make me prouder when my head hits the pillow tonight? That's the Stoic difference, transforming mornings from rushed routines into deliberate acts of self-mastery. Now let's move to the second Stoic drill, one that might seem counterintuitive at first, but is incredibly powerful for building resilience: negative visualization, or what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum. This is the practice of deliberately imagining the worst-case scenarios in your life, not to dwell on fear, but to strip those fears of their power. Seneca, who lost his entire fortune overnight due to political exile, wrote, "What fortune has made yours is not your own." He didn't just accept that truth, he trained for it. By mentally rehearsing loss, he ensured that if it ever happened, he wouldn't be shattered by surprise. Marcus Aurelius took this further with a perspective shift. The obstacle is the way. He didn't just prepare for adversity, he reframed it as the very thing that would strengthen him. Here's how you can apply this today. Pick one small frustration that could realistically go wrong: your commute derailed by traffic, a last-minute cancellation of plans, or a critical email from your boss. Close your eyes and visualize it happening in detail. Feel the initial sting of irritation or panic, then pause. Ask yourself, what's the Stoic move here? Maybe it's using the delay to listen to a podcast you've been meaning to catch up on, or seeing the harsh feedback as a chance to improve rather than an attack. The goal isn't to breed pessimism, it's to inoculate yourself against overreaction. Most people spend energy avoiding discomfort, only to fall apart when it inevitably arrives. But when you've already walked through the scenario in your mind, you're no longer at the mercy of chaos. You've already rehearsed your composure. So today, try this. What's one worst case you've been quietly dreading? Play it out, then ask, if this happened, what would my best self do next? That's the secret, transforming dread into preparation and fear into unshakable readiness. Here's a truth that cuts through every struggle you'll ever face. Some things are yours to command and others simply aren't. That's the heart of Stoicism's third drill, the Dichotomy of Control, a concept Epictetus framed with unflinching clarity. Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. At first glance, it sounds obvious, but here's where most people stumble. They exhaust themselves trying to bend the uncontrollable while neglecting the power they already hold. Think about a typical frustration: your flight gets delayed. You can't control the weather or the airline's decisions, but you can control whether you spend that extra hour fuming or finally diving into that book you've been carrying around. Modern life bombards us with illusions of control: social media likes, other people's opinions, even the past. The Stoics called these indifference, not because they don't matter, but because clinging to them steals energy from what truly does: your choices, your efforts, your character. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, writing, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." He wasn't dismissing pain, he was redirecting focus to the only battlefield that matters: the mind. Here's how to apply this today. Grab a journal and draw 2 columns. Label one, within my control, the other, beyond my control. Now list 3 current worries, maybe a looming deadline, a strained friendship, or a volatile stock market. Force yourself to categorize each. That argument with your partner, their tone isn't yours to dictate, but your patience and listening are. The stock market. Unpredictable, but your savings habits entirely yours. This isn't about passive acceptance, it's about strategic focus. The athlete can't control the referee's call, but they can control their next play. The musician can't force applause, but they can master their scales. Every moment, you're choosing where to invest your attention. So tonight, ask yourself, what's one thing I've been trying to control that was never mine to hold? Then take that reclaimed energy and pour it into something that is your next action, your next word, your next breath. That shift alone changes everything. Imagine ending your day not with mindless scrolling or exhaustion, but with a quiet moment of clarity, a chance to distill wisdom from the chaos. That's the power of the Stoic Evening Review, a practice Marcus Aurelius perfected. Every night, he'd retreat to his private quarters and ask himself pointed questions, later immortalized in meditations. What harm did I suffer? What did I overcome? Did I act with justice, courage, and self-control? This wasn't self-criticism, it was deliberate refinement. Here's how to make this ancient ritual work for you. Start by carving out just 5 minutes before bed. No elaborate setup, just you and a notebook. Divide your reflections into 3 simple questions. First, what went well today? Maybe you stayed patient during a tense work call, or finally started that project you've been avoiding. Stoicism teaches us to celebrate progress, not perfection. Acknowledge these wins, they're proof of your growing discipline. Next, ask, where did I fall short? Be honest but kind. Did you snap at a loved one? Procrastinate on a goal? The Stoics weren't interested in guilt, they focused on patterns. Epictetus warned, if you are defeated once and say it won't happen again, but then it does, you're no longer losing, you're choosing. Spotting these moments isn't about shame, it's about spotting opportunities to course correct tomorrow. Finally, the most transformative question, what did I learn? Perhaps today revealed that you're more resilient than you thought when a plan fell apart, or that a single deep breath can diffuse anger. This step turns experience into wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting." In other words, every stumble holds a lesson if you're willing to mine it. Try this for just 7 nights. You'll notice something profound. The days start to feel less chaotic because you're no longer letting them slip away unexamined. Instead of drifting to sleep with unresolved stress, you'll close each day with intention, ready to greet the next one sharper, wiser, and more grounded. That's the Stoic way, not just living life but mastering it one evening at a time. What if the quickest path to strength wasn't comfort but carefully chosen discomfort? That's the radical idea behind Stoicism's 5th drill, voluntary hardship, a practice that turns everyday conveniences into training grounds for resilience. Cato the Younger, known for his ironclad discipline, didn't just preach this, he lived it. He'd walk barefoot in snow, wear thin robes in winter, and eat plain meals not because he had to, but because he chose to. Why? To remind himself daily that comfort is a preference, not a necessity. Seneca put it bluntly, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Think of it like mental weightlifting. Just as muscles grow under resistance, your resolve strengthens when you willingly face small adversities. Cold showers are a classic modern example. That initial shock triggers discipline like nothing else. For 1 minute, you're not avoiding the sting of cold water, you're mastering your instinct to flee discomfort. Same with intermittent fasting. It's not about hunger, it's about proving to yourself that temporary unease won't derail your focus. Here's the twist, this isn't about punishing yourself, it's about preparation. Life will throw unexpected hardships your way, a job loss, a health scare, a betrayal. But if you've already trained your mind to handle discomfort voluntarily, those blows won't crush you. You'll have already built the mental calluses to endure them. So here's your challenge. Pick one manageable discomfort to invite into your daily routine this week. Maybe it's turning off the AC during a short drive, leaving your phone behind on a walk, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator. The key, start small but stay consistent. Each time you do it, silently reaffirm, this is my choice, this is my training. Because when you willingly step into discomfort, you rewrite your relationship with adversity from something to fear into something you know deeply you can handle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts to what you frequently expose it to." So ask yourself, what's one comfort you've been clinging to that's quietly made you softer? That's where your next drill begins. We often get so tangled in the weeds of daily stress that we forget how small our problems really are in the grand scheme. That's where the Stoic 6th drill comes in the view from above. a mental technique Marcus Aurelius used to cut through life's noise. He'd close his eyes and imagine rising high above earth, watching his struggles shrink to insignificance against the vast sweep of history. Think of the universal substance, he wrote, of which you have a very small portion. That shift in perspective wasn't about dismissing real pain, it was about reclaiming proportionality. Here's why this works. When you're stuck in traffic or obsessing over a rude comment, your brain treats it like a life or death threat. But zoom out, picture your city from an airplane window, then your continent from space, then Earth as a pale blue dot in the cosmos. Suddenly, that snarky email or missed deadline isn't just smaller, it's temporary. The Stoics called this sympatheia, the interconnectedness of all things. Your worst day is just a ripple in an endless ocean of time. Try this today. The next time a problem feels overwhelming, pause and ask 2 questions. First, how will this matter in 1 year? That argument with your neighbor over a parking spot, will it even register? That project setback, will it define your career or just be a footnote? Second, what would my wisest self say about this? Imagine your future you looking back with the clarity of distance. Would they applaud your reaction or shrug at what you're magnifying? This drill isn't about apathy, it's about precision. By distinguishing true crises from passing irritations, you free up energy for what deserves it. Ancient Roman senators used this before major decisions. Astronauts report a similar shift after seeing Earth from orbit. You don't need a spaceship, though, just the willingness to step back literally or mentally, and remember, most of what consumes us today will be forgotten dust tomorrow. The tighter we grip small things, the less room we leave for what's truly vast. Marcus Aurelius kept this practice at his core. Keep before your eyes the whole sphere of time and the whole of substance. So tonight, stand at your window, look at the sky, breathe, and let that infinite backdrop remind you. Your power lies not in controlling every gust of wind, but in adjusting your sails. There's a split-second gap between what happens to you and how you respond, and in that tiny space lies all your power. This is Stoicism's 7th drill, the pause, a practice Epictetus described as breaking the chains of impulse. He wrote, "Freedom isn't secured by fulfilling desires, but by removing them." At first, that sounds harsh, but here's the key. He wasn't saying don't feel. He was saying don't let feeling dictate action without your consent. Think of the last time someone cut you off in traffic. Your jaw clenched, your hands gripped the wheel. Maybe words flew out before you could stop them. That's the untrained mind at work. Stimulus, then immediate reaction. Now imagine inserting just 3 breaths between the two. Inhale, this isn't about me. Exhale, I control only my actions. Inhale, what's the wise response? That's the Stoic pause in action. It's not passive, it's strategic. Seneca, who faced constant political attacks, mastered this. He'd write letters at night, then sleep on them before sending. Why? Because daylight often revealed that what felt urgent in anger wasn't worth pursuing in calm. Modern neuroscience backs this up. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, takes 6 seconds to reset after a trigger. 6 seconds. That's all it takes to shift from reactive to reflective. Here's how to train this today. Pick one recurring trigger, a coworker's tone, a child's tantrum, a slow internet connection. Next time it happens, physically stop. Place your hand on your stomach and count 4 heartbeats. In that pause, ask, will this matter in 10 minutes, 10 days? Most conflicts aren't emergencies. We just treat them like they are because we haven't built the muscle of delay. Marcus Aurelius left himself reminders. Ask, what is this thing in its nature? What is it made of? That's the pause doing its work, creating space to see the event as it is, not as your emotions amplify it. So tonight, replay one moment from today where you reacted on autopilot. How might those 4 heartbeats have changed the script? Because every time you pause, you're not just avoiding a mistake, you're reclaiming your sovereignty over your own mind. What if every setback, every frustration, every unexpected twist wasn't just something to endure but something to love? That's the essence of Ammer Fatty, the Stoic practice of embracing fate, later championed by Nietzsche. Marcus Aurelius put it in stark terms: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think about that for a moment. The very obstacles you resent could be the exact forge where your strength is tempered. Consider the story of Thomas Edison's lab burning to the ground. As flames consumed years of work, he told his son, "Go get your mother, she'll never see a fire like this again." Then he rebuilt from ashes, later saying the disaster cleared out outdated ideas. That's Ammer Fatty in action, not just accepting disaster but finding the hidden gift within it. The Stoics didn't preach passive resignation. They practiced active alchemy, turning leaden circumstances into golden opportunities. Here's how to apply this today. Take one current challenge, a delayed project, a strained relationship, a financial pinch, and reframe it as a teacher. Ask, what is this situation forcing me to develop? Maybe the delay is giving you time to refine your work. The strained relationship is highlighting boundaries you need to set. The financial pinch is revealing creative solutions you'd never have explored in comfort. Epictetus, born a slave, embodied this mindset. Don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it happens. Then you'll be happy. Notice the subtle power in that shift. It's not about lowering standards, it's about elevating perspective. When you stop fighting reality, you start seeing its hidden tools. So tonight, pick one problem you've been resisting. Write it down, then finish this sentence. This is helping me grow by. That's the Ammer Fatty difference, transforming life's rough edges into the whetstone that sharpens you. Because when you stop seeing fate as an opponent and start seeing it as a collaborator, every challenge becomes a silent ally in your journey toward unshakable resilience. Death is the one guest we all know is coming but rarely prepare to meet, yet the Stoics didn't just prepare. They invited that awareness in as a daily teacher. This is Memento Mori, the 9th drill, remembering that life is fleeting, not to incite fear, but to clarify purpose. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, put it bluntly: "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We hoard time as if we're storing it in a vault, only to waste it on distractions we'd never choose if we knew the hourglass was running low. Think of how differently you'd move through today if you received a terminal diagnosis tomorrow. Suddenly, petty grudges wouldn't matter. Endless scrolling would feel absurd. That conversation with your aging parent or the project you've been postponing, they'd shoot to the top of your list. The Stoics argue we shouldn't wait for crisis to force that clarity. Marcus Aurelius kept a skull on his desk not as morbid decor, but as a mirror. This is you soon enough. What will you do with the breath still in your lungs? Here's how to practice this without gloom. Each morning, place one hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Then ask, if today were my last, would I spend it this way? Not as a hypothetical, but as a filter. That meeting you're dreading, would you sit there resentful, or would you speak up with the honesty mortality grants? That apology you've been withholding, would pride still feel heavier than closure? Seneca's letters reveal a startling truth. We often mistake being busy for being alive. He wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." The average person lives around 30,000 days less if you subtract sleep. Yet we ration our best energy to things that won't echo beyond next week. Memento Mori isn't about counting days, it's about making days count. Try this tonight. Write down 3 things you did today that truly mattered. Not tasks checked off, but moments where you showed up fully. Then 3 that didn't. No judgment, just observation. Over time, the gap between those lists will narrow, not because life changes, but because your awareness does. When you stop pretending you have forever, you start living like you mean it. Epictetus framed it best. Keep death and exile before your eyes daily, along with everything that seems terrible. By doing so, you'll never have a base thought, nor will you crave anything excessively. That's the paradox. By staring mortality in the face, you stop fearing it. And in that fearlessness, you find the urgency to live, not just exist, with a fierceness that honors every borrowed moment. There's a reason Marcus Aurelius' Meditations wasn't written for an audience. It was written to himself. Those private pages, never meant to be published, became one of history's most profound works on Stoicism, precisely because they were raw, unfiltered dialogues with his own mind. That's the power of Stoic Journaling, the 10th drill in sharpening your mental edge. It's not about crafting pretty prose, it's about excavating truth. Epictetus put it plainly: if you didn't learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, what did you learn them for? Journaling is where theory meets the mirror. Start with this simple prompt tonight. What virtues did I practice today? Not what did I accomplish, but how did I show up? Maybe you demonstrated patience when your toddler spilled their drink for the 3rd time, or courage when you voiced an unpopular opinion at work. The Stoics believed virtues like wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance were muscles they atrophy without conscious exercise. Your journal is the gym. Marcus Aurelius asked himself brutal questions. Have I done something for the common good? Have I been anxious over future events? His honesty is striking because he wasn't performing, he was course correcting. Try his method. Divide your page into 2 columns. On the left, note a challenge you faced. On the right, dissect it. What did I control? Where did I let externals dictate my peace? This isn't self-judgment, it's strategic self-awareness. Modern research backs this ancient practice. Studies show journaling reduces stress by creating cognitive space. Putting chaos into words tames it. But the Stoic twist is the framing. Instead of venting emotions, you're interrogating them. Was this anger justified? Did my reaction align with my values? Seneca wrote letters to his friend Lucilius, revisiting his daily interactions, asking, could I have been kinder, more decisive? That's the journal's magic. It turns hindsight into foresight. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, carve out 5 minutes before bed. Use these prompts. 1. One choice today I'm proud of. 2. One moment where I lost focus. What triggered it? 3. Tomorrow I'll strengthen my virtue by keep it messy. Spelling doesn't matter, sincerity does. Over time, you'll spot patterns. Maybe your patience wanes when you skip breakfast, or your courage flares in deadlines. That's self-knowledge no app can quantify. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, look beneath the surface. Let not the several qualities of a thing nor its worth escape you. Your journal isn't just a record, it's a chisel carving clarity from the marble of daily noise. Imagine standing in front of a massive boulder blocking your path. Most people see it and turn back, defeated before they begin. But what if that boulder wasn't a dead end, but the path itself? That's the core of Stoicism's 11th drill. The obstacle is the way, a principle Ryan Holiday revitalized for the modern age. It's not just about enduring hardship, it's about recognizing that the obstacle is the training. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled Rome during plague and war, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. At its heart, this is alchemy turning leaden setbacks into golden opportunities. Take Thomas Edison's factory fire in 1914. Flames devoured years of research, prototypes worth millions. Reporters rushed to the scene, expecting devastation, but Edison stood amid the ashes, grinning. "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up," he said. "Now we can start fresh." Within weeks, his team rebuilt, and within months, they revolutionized the phonograph. That's the mindset shift. The fire wasn't a tragedy, it was a forced upgrade. The Stoics would call that antifragility, gaining strength from chaos rather than merely surviving it. Here's why this matters. Your brain is wired to resist obstacles instinctively. A delayed flight triggers frustration. A critical email sparks defensiveness. But what if you paused and asked, how is this obstacle secretly serving me? Maybe the delay gives you time to refine a presentation. The criticism reveals a blind spot you'd have missed otherwise. The Stoics didn't just tolerate setbacks, they mined them for hidden advantages. Epictetus, born into slavery, framed it starkly. Difficulties show what men are. His own chains became his classroom, teaching him that no external force could dictate his inner freedom. Centuries later, Viktor Frankl would echo this in Nazi concentration camps, writing, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That's the ultimate reframe. Obstacles don't block the path, they are the path to becoming who you need to be. So here's your challenge today. Pick one current obstacle, a rejected proposal, a strained relationship, a financial hurdle. Now complete this sentence. This is helping me grow. Maybe the rejection is teaching you resilience. The strained relationship is honing your communication skills. The financial pinch is sparking creativity. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this preparing me for?" you unlock a Stoic superpower, the ability to turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone. Ryan Holiday put it perfectly. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. So tonight, look back on a recent setback, not with frustration, but with curiosity. What did it force me to discover? Because the difference between those who break under pressure and those who build with it isn't luck, it's perspective. And that's a muscle you can train. Words are like arrows once loosed, they cannot be called back. That's why the Stoics drilled precision in speech, treating each sentence as if it were a scarce resource. Epictetus laid down the rule with razor clarity. If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Don't wish to seem knowledgeable. In other words, speak only when your words carry weight. Most people clutter conversations to fill silence or prove their worth. But Stoic assertiveness comes from the opposite, the restraint to withhold until the moment demands it. Picture this common scenario. A colleague presents an idea in a meeting, and you immediately jump in with "actually," followed by a critique. The room tenses. Even if you're right, the delivery erodes trust. Now replay that moment with Stoic brevity. You pause, let 3 breaths pass, then say, "Interesting approach. What if we considered X?" The idea isn't to mute yourself, it's to measure. When your words become deliberate, people lean in to catch them. History's most respected leaders mastered this. When Sparta's King Augeas was asked why his people spoke so sparingly, he replied, "Because we know how." The power isn't in the volume of speech, but in its density. Think of Marcus Aurelius, whose written meditations overflow with wisdom, yet historical accounts describe him as a listener first. He understood that authority often whispers while insecurity shouts. Here's how to practice this today. Before speaking, ask 3 silent questions. 1. Is this necessary? 2. Is this kind? 3. Is this an improvement on silence? If any answer is no, hold your words. You'll notice something fascinating. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. Recall your last impulsive comment, perhaps interrupting a friend's story to share your own, or snapping at a waiter over a slow meal. Now reimagine that moment with Stoic Pause. What shifted? Likely the tension dissolved because you stopped feeding it. Epictetus warned, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just etiquette, it's strategy. Every unspoken reaction is a deposit in your credibility bank, and when you do speak, people cash in their attention. Try this drill for a day. For every conversation, give yourself a 10-word limit per response. You'll quickly discover which words are essential and which were just noise. Because true assertiveness isn't about dominating the room, it's about knowing with unshakable certainty when your voice is worth hearing. Imagine spending years crafting the perfect piece of work, only to have it torn apart by critics or drowned in empty praise. How much would that shake you? The Stoics would say, not at all, because your worth was never in their hands to begin with. This is Drill 13, detaching from praise and criticism, what the ancients called adiaphora, things neither good nor bad, just indifferent. Seneca saw straight through society's obsession with approval, writing, "What difference does it make how much praise you receive after you've lost the ability to hear it?" A brutal truth, but liberating. If fame's sweetness can't reach a dead man's ears, why let it dictate a living one's peace? Think about the last time a compliment inflated your ego or a harsh comment ruined your afternoon. That emotional roller coaster isn't inevitable, it's a choice. Epictetus trained his students to greet both cheers and jeers with the same calm, saying, "If someone told you that others were speaking ill of you, wouldn't you defend yourself? Then why do you defend yourself when someone says you're great? Both are just noises, one no more true or false than the other." The Stoic goal isn't to numb yourself to feedback, but to filter it through one question: does this help me improve virtue or not? A coach's critique on your form, useful. A stranger's insult about your appearance, irrelevant data. Marcus Aurelius faced this daily as emperor. Flatterers lined up to inflate his ego. Rivals sharpened knives behind his back. His journal reveals how he stayed steady. It's silly to try to escape other people's faults. They are inescapable. Just try to escape your own. Notice the pivot from worrying about others' opinions to auditing his own actions. That's the shift that changes everything. Here's how to practice this today. 1. Spot your triggers, whose judgment currently holds too much power over you. A parent's approval, a boss's nod. Write their name down, then ask, would I trade my integrity for their praise? 2. The mantra drill. When feedback, positive or negative, hits, silently repeat, I control my actions, not their reactions. This isn't arrogance, it's emotional sovereignty. 3. The tombstone test. Picture your gravestone. Will it list your LinkedIn achievements or the depth of your character? No eulogy ever read, "They had 50,000 followers." History's most impactful figures operated this way. Beethoven, going deaf, wrote, "I will seize fate by the throat, it shall not bend me." Not, "I'll wait for applause." Marie Curie dismissed fame as just noise. She kept her Nobel Prizes in a drawer, letting radiation burns on her hands testify to her real work. Try this tonight. Recall one recent compliment that made you glow and one critique that stung. Now imagine both said to you in a language you don't understand. Notice how the emotional charge vanishes. That's the Stoic secret. The words never held power, your translation did. When you stop outsourcing your self-worth, you become critic-proof, not by building thicker armor, but by realizing you were never under attack. Seneca's letters hold the key. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The next time praise feels like oxygen or criticism like a dagger, remember, you're the one holding both. Every minor annoyance, the coworker who talks too loud, the neighbor who parks just over your line, the cashier moving at glacial speed, these aren't just frustrations. They're pop quizzes from the universe, testing your commitment to patience, kindness, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius framed this brilliantly. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But here's the twist. He didn't say that to justify anger. He said it to prepare for it, like a boxer wrapping their hands before a match. Consider the last time someone cut you off in traffic. Your pulse spiked, your grip tightened, maybe you even muttered something unkind. Now imagine replaying that moment with a Stoic lens. This isn't an insult, it's an invitation. Can I keep my cool when tested? That shift turns irritation into opportunity. The Stoics called this prosoch, a vigilant awareness that treats every interaction as a chance to practice virtue. Here's the drill. Next time someone grates on your nerves, pause and silently label it, test. Then ask two questions. 1. What virtue is this moment asking me to strengthen? Maybe it's patience with the slow walker, humility when interrupted, or courage to speak calmly to a rude colleague. 2. How would my best self handle this? Picture the version of you who's unfazed by pettiness. What would they do? Smile and move on. Offer help instead of criticism. Epictetus took this further, suggesting we thank those who provoke us. They're like a sparring partner for your patience. That's radical, reframing the person annoying you isn't an obstacle, they're a trainer. Imagine applying this to your most frustrating relative or that one condescending coworker. Suddenly, their behavior becomes useful, like sandpaper smoothing rough edges you didn't know you had. Try this today. Pick one predictable annoyance, maybe your partner leaving dishes in the sink or your phone buzzing with trivial notifications. Instead of reacting, respond internally with, my daily drill. Then act as if this moment was custom designed to reveal who you're becoming. Because in Stoic philosophy, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for your growth. The question isn't whether tests will come, it's whether you'll recognize them as the curriculum. Marcus Aurelius left a clue in Meditations. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When you meet pettiness with grace, you're not just enduring, you're evolving. So tonight, replay one test you faced, not to judge your performance, but to appreciate the setup, the universe handing you another chance to level up. Imagine building a house without first laying a foundation. It might stand for a while, but the first storm would reveal its weakness. Your virtues are that foundation for life, the unshakable principles that hold everything else together. Epictetus cut straight to the heart of it. First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be, then do what you have to do. That's the essence of Drill 15, defining your core virtues with such clarity that every decision becomes an act of alignment. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom to discern what's true, courage to act despite fear, justice to treat others fairly, and temperance to master your desires. But here's where most go wrong. They treat these like abstract ideals rather than daily drills. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up thinking, I should be wise today. He asked, what does wisdom look like in this meeting, in this conflict? Virtues are verbs, not nouns. Start with this exercise. Take a blank sheet of paper and divide it into 2 columns. On the left, list the virtues you admire most, perhaps honesty, resilience, or compassion. On the right, note one concrete action you'll take today to embody each. For example, courage, right arrow, speak up in the team meeting about the ethical concern you've been avoiding. Temperance, right arrow, decline the 3rd drink at dinner, not because you should, but to prove you can. Epictetus warned, you are not your body or possessions, you are your choices. That's why this drill isn't about aspiration, it's about activation. When Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to live as if your every act were to become a universal law, he wasn't preaching perfection. He was highlighting the power of small, consistent acts, the kind that sculpt character over time. Now, the pivotal question: what virtue do you need most right now? Not in some grand philosophical sense, but in this exact season of your life. If you're paralyzed by indecision, maybe it's courage. If you're drowning in distractions, perhaps temperance. The Stoics believed self-awareness was the starting line for growth. Try this tonight. Reflect on one recent moment where you acted against your virtues. Maybe you gossiped when striving for integrity, or stayed silent when justice demanded speech. Don't dwell in guilt. Analyze. What rationalization did you use? How can you dismantle it next time? Because defining virtues isn't an intellectual exercise. It's the blueprint for building a life that doesn't crumble under pressure. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one. Your virtues aren't just ideals to admire, they're tools to wield, starting with your very next choice. There's a hidden force more disarming than any argument: silence. Seneca, who faced constant political turmoil, called it a weapon fit for the wise. He wrote, "Speech is the mirror of the mind, but silence is its polished armor." Think about the last time someone baited you into an argument. The more you engaged, the deeper they dug in. Now imagine that same scenario with a different ending. You meet their words with quiet composure. The tension doesn't escalate, it evaporates. That's the Stoic superpower of silence in conflict, not as surrender, but as strategic restraint. Consider the courtroom tactic of pregnant pause. When a witness finishes speaking, the lawyer deliberately counts to 10 before responding. Those seconds of silence unsettle the witness, often making them blurt out contradictions. The Stoics understood this dynamic centuries earlier. Silence isn't empty. It's a pressure cooker for truth. Marcus Aurelius used this in Senate debates, letting his opponents' hasty words expose their flawed logic while he conserved his energy for decisive moments. Here's how to drill this today. Next time someone provokes you, a snide remark, a passive-aggressive text, place your tongue against the roof of your mouth and count your breaths. 1. This isn't about me. 2. Reacting gives them power. 3. What does my best self look like here? By 10, you'll notice something remarkable. The urge to retaliate has dimmed, replaced by clarity. History's greatest negotiators wield silence like a scalpel. When Ulysses S. Grant's generals demanded harsh terms for Confederate surrender, he simply stared at his cigar ash until they retracted their demand. The Stoics would nod in approval. Sometimes the strongest statement is the one never spoken. Recall a recent conflict where words spiraled out of control. Now rewrite that memory. What if you'd pause just 3 breaths longer? Silence isn't weakness, it's the space where impulse transforms into intention. As Seneca observed, a sword never kills anybody, it's a tool in the killer's hand. Your words are the same. Choosing when not to use them might be the sharpest edge you hone. Your mind is like a fortress. Every piece of information you let in either strengthens its walls or weakens them. Marcus Aurelius warned about this in Meditations. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential. He wasn't talking about laziness, he was exposing the danger of mental clutter. Today, we call this information overload, and it's not just distracting, it's corrosive to your Stoic edge. Every tweet, news alert, and viral video is a tiny siege on your attention, and most of us surrender without a fight. Think about how you start your morning. Do you reach for your phone and let the world's chaos flood in before you've even had water? The Stoics didn't have social media, but they understood the same principle. What you feed your mind shapes your reality. Seneca wrote letters urging his friends to avoid the gossip of Rome's forums, calling it mental pollution. Fast forward 2,000 years, and we've built forums that follow us everywhere, pocket-sized distractions masquerading as connection. Here's the drill for one day this week. Go on a digital fast. No news, no scrolling, no podcasts blaring in your ears during downtime. Just you and the raw material of your thoughts. It's not about rejecting technology, it's about reclaiming the space to hear yourself think. When Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can a person find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own mind," he wasn't joking, but he also knew that retreat only exists if you guard its gates. Start small, designate 3 hours tonight as an input-free zone. Notice what happens. At first, you might fidget. Your brain, addicted to stimulation, will itch for distraction. Sit with that discomfort. It's the same muscle you train when you hold a cold shower or resist junk food. By the second hour, something shifts. Ideas you've suppressed surface. Solutions to old problems click. Clarity emerges not because you found answers, but because you stopped drowning them out. Now reflect. Which inputs drain you the most? The outrage-fueled news cycle, the highlight reels of strangers' lives, the endless stream of opinions you didn't seek. Write them down, then ask, does this make me wiser or just more anxious? The Stoics measured value by what fortified virtue, not what merely filled time. This isn't about living in a cave, it's about curating your mental diet with the same care as your meals. You wouldn't eat junk food all day and wonder why you feel sluggish. Why treat your mind any differently? As Epictetus put it, if you don't want to be a slave, don't act like one. Every time you reflexively check your phone, you're handing your chains to someone else. Break the cycle. Your focus isn't a resource to mine, it's the foundation of your freedom. Legend has it that Ulysses, sailing past the treacherous sirens, knew their song would lure him to his doom, so he ordered his crew to tie him to the mast. That's pre-commitment in its purest form, recognizing your future self's weaknesses and building guardrails against them now. The Stoics didn't have mythical sirens, but they faced equally seductive traps: anger, greed, laziness, and their solution was the same: bind your virtue in advance. Seneca called this setting the mind in order before the storm hits. It's not about willpower in the moment, it's about engineering the moment so willpower becomes irrelevant. Take modern temptation. Your phones glow at midnight, pulling you into endless scrolling. You don't beat that with gritted teeth at 11:59. You win by leaving the device in another room at 9 p.m. Or consider gym attendance. Research shows people who sleep in workout clothes are 3 times more likely to exercise at dawn. That's pre-commitment in action, removing friction before it can derail you. The Stoics would call this proherses, deliberate choice, shaping your environment to align with your values. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. Before meetings where he anticipated flattery, he'd write reminders like, "You're not here for praise, but truth." He wasn't waiting to resist vanity in the moment. He was immunizing himself against it beforehand. Epictetus took it further, advising students to rehearse tough conversations aloud. If someone says X, I'll respond with Y. By pre-scripting virtue, they turned moral choices into reflexes. Here's where to start. Identify one recurring struggle where you consistently betray your best intentions, maybe hitting snooze too often, snapping at loved ones when stressed, or impulse shopping online. Now design a Ulysses pact. If procrastination plagues you, use apps that block social media during work hours. If anger flares in traffic, preload calming podcasts for your commute. The key isn't to white-knuckle through temptation, but to dismantle its invitation entirely. Tonight, ask yourself, what's my siren song? Then tie your hands metaphorically or literally. Leave credit cards at home if shopping tempts you. Text a friend your fitness goal with a cash penalty for quitting. Like Ulysses, you're not weak for needing ropes, you're wise for admitting the storm is coming and battening down the hatches while the sea is still calm. As Seneca wrote, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Pre-commitment is the art of walking willingly toward your best self, even when the winds howl. Standing too close to a painting makes it hard to see the full picture. You get lost in brushstrokes while missing the masterpiece. That's exactly what happens when we're trapped in our own emotions, reacting to life from inside the storm. The Stoics had a remedy for this, stepping back to observe yourself as if you were a wise mentor giving counsel. Marcus Aurelius perfected this in Meditations, writing, "When you're distressed by external events, it's not the events themselves troubling you, only your judgment of them. And you can erase that judgment in an instant. That instant is the pivot point where you switch from actor to observer, from reactive to reflective." Think about the last time you lost your temper. In the moment, every justification felt airtight, they deserved it. I couldn't help it. Now replay that scene from a third-person view. Watch your body language, hear your tone, notice the ripple effects of your words. Suddenly, the righteous anger might look more like self-sabotage. This isn't about self-judgment, it's about strategic detachment. Epictetus framed it as the difference between being a player in a game and the referee overseeing it. One gets caught in the heat, the other enforces the rules with calm authority. Here's how to practice this today. Pick one upcoming challenge, a difficult conversation, a high-pressure task, or even a mundane irritation like rush hour traffic. Before engaging, pause and visualize your best self handling it. Not some perfect, emotionless robot, but the most grounded version of you, the one who listens before speaking, breathes before reacting, and chooses purpose over impulse. Then ask, what would that version do right now? The gap between that answer and your default reaction is where growth happens. Seneca used this drill daily, imagining his mentor Attalus watching his choices. We need to set over ourselves a guardian of our inner estate. He wrote, for modern lives, that guardian might be a future version of yourself, the person you're becoming. Try this experiment. For the next 24 hours, wear an imaginary mentor's glasses. At each decision point, what to eat when stressed, how to respond to criticism, whether to procrastinate, zoom out. Watch yourself as if you were coaching a beloved student. The magic lies in the shift, when you stop seeing problems as happening to you and start seeing them as observed by you, their grip loosens. Marcus Aurelius left clues. Pretend you've died and are looking back on your life's actions. Now evaluate them. That's the third-person view in its starkest form, death as the ultimate perspective shifter. But you don't need that extreme. Just the willingness to step outside yourself long enough to ask, is this who I want to be? Because the moment you see your choices as a mentor would, you stop justifying limitations and start engineering breakthroughs. Gratitude might seem like a soft virtue, something reserved for holiday speeches or polite thank you notes, but the Stoics wielded it like a hammer, smashing through discontent to reveal the sturdy foundation of what we already have. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, deliberately ate coarse bread and slept on hard beds not as punishment, but as practice. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." That's the radical heart of Stoic gratitude. It's not just appreciation, it's immunization against the endless hunger for more. Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, late for an appointment, frustration bubbling. Now flip the script. The car's heater works on, like the homeless man you passed earlier. You have an appointment to be late for, meaning people rely on you. Even the traffic itself is a sign of thriving commerce, not isolation. That shift isn't naive optimism, it's tactical reframing. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, listing in his journal everything from his family's health to the fresh water in Roman aqueducts. For a man who ruled an empire, his gratitude focused not on power, but on the ordinary miracles we walk past daily. Here's how to turn this into a drill. Each night, list 3 small wins that didn't register in the moment. The barista who remembered your order, the green light that caught you just right, the fact that your legs carried you all day without complaint. At first, it might feel forced, but that's the point. You're training your brain to scan for abundance instead of lack. Modern research calls this the negativity bias, our mind's Velcro to problems and Teflon to blessings. Gratitude is the scrub brush that restores balance. Seneca took it further, suggesting we periodically lose comforts to reignite appreciation. Set aside a certain number of days, he advised, during which you shall be content with the scantiest food, the coarsest clothing. You don't have to sleep on the floor, but try turning off the Wi-Fi for an evening. Notice how the simple pleasure of a book intensifies when distraction fades. Or pay attention to your next glass of water, really taste it. The Stoics believed joy wasn't in acquiring new things, but in fully perceiving what's already there. So tonight, ask yourself, what's one thing I'm taking for granted that would devastate me to lose? Your fingers that type, the eyes reading these words, the roof that didn't leak today. Gratitude, in this light, isn't just a feeling, it's a spotlight, revealing the invisible infrastructure of your survival and happiness. And when you start seeing life that way, scarcity loses its grip. As Epictetus put it, he is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. That joy isn't passive, it's the ultimate act of defiance against a world always whispering you need more. 5 seconds, that's all it takes to either seize control of your life or let another opportunity slip into the graveyard of "I'll do it later." Mel Robbins' famous 5-second rule isn't just modern self-help, it's pure Stoicism in action, echoing what Epictetus taught 2,000 years ago. No man is free who is not master of himself. Procrastination isn't just laziness, it's a betrayal of your own potential. Every time you hit snooze, avoid a tough conversation, or scroll past that project you've been putting off, you're not just delaying a task, you're eroding your self-trust. The Stoics saw this clearly. Hesitation is the enemy of virtue. Here's how to weaponize those 5 seconds. Let's say you've been postponing a workout. Your alarm goes off and your brain serves up a buffet of excuses. Too tired, too cold, I'll go tomorrow. This is the critical moment, the gap between impulse and action. Start counting down like a rocket launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At 0, move. Don't debate, don't negotiate, just throw off the covers and stand up. You're not counting to think, you're counting to act. Epictetus called procrastination the theft of time, because every delay steals a chance to prove your own agency. Marcus Aurelius faced this daily. Imagine the weight of running Rome, the crises, the demands, yet he wrote, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." Simple but brutal in its clarity, the 5-second rule forces that same clarity. It's not about motivation, it's about interrupting the autopilot of avoidance. Think of it as a Stoic fire drill. When the alarm of opportunity rings, you train yourself to move toward the fire, not away. Try this today. Pick one thing you've been avoiding, a phone call, a workout, a difficult email. The moment you feel resistance, count down and act before your brain can manufacture an excuse. Notice what happens after, the relief, the momentum, the quiet pride of showing up for yourself. Procrastination thrives in the fog of later. The 5-second rule cuts through it like a blade. Seneca warned, while we postpone, life speeds by. So tonight, ask yourself, What's one thing I've let linger that, if done today, would unshackle me? Then count down and reclaim your time, your power, your life. 0 is where excuses end and action begins. Cotto the Younger, the iron-willed Stoic senator, once turned down a bribe so large the messenger thought he must have misheard the amount. When pressed, Cotto didn't justify or soften his refusal. He simply repeated, "No." That unshakable clarity is the essence of Drill 22, mastering the Stoic art of saying no, not with aggression or guilt, but with the quiet certainty of a boundary carved in stone. Epictetus, who trained students in this very skill, put it bluntly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish for saying no to what harms your peace. Notice the phrasing, not what's bad, but what harms your peace. That's the litmus test for every request, invitation, or demand. Does this expand or contract my capacity to live virtuously? Modern life bombards us with obligations masquerading as opportunities: the extra project that burns your weekends, the toxic friend who drains your energy, the social media rabbit holes that fragment your focus. Each yes to these is a silent no to something more meaningful. The Stoic solution isn't selfishness, it's selectivity. Seneca modeled this by retreating from Rome's chaos to write and reflect, explaining, "I've had to reject the advances of men who wished to burden me with tasks, not because I'm arrogant, but because I know my limits." Here's how to practice today. Pick one low-stakes scenario to role-play. A coworker asks you to cover their shift. A relative guilts you into hosting yet another gathering. Instead of knee-jerk acquiescence, pause. Channel Cotto's 3-part refusal. 1. Acknowledge, "I hear you need help." 2. Declare, "I won't be able to take this on." 3. Redirect, optional. Have you asked alternative solution? No apologies, no over-explaining, just a clean boundary delivered with respect. Try it aloud in your car or shower. The physical act of saying no trains your brain to wear it comfortably. Now the pivotal question: where have you been saying yes with your lips while screaming no inside? That tension isn't politeness, it's self-betrayal. Marcus Aurelius warned, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." Every unforced no is a yes to your integrity. Tonight, write down one commitment you'll decline this week, not with resentment, but with the calm certainty of a Stoic reclaiming their sovereignty. As Epictetus taught, no one is stronger than the person who can say no to themselves and mean it. That strength starts with 2 letters. Hustle culture screams, grind until you win. While the Stoics whisper a different truth, fall in love with the grind itself. That's the heart of Drill 23, shifting from obsessive outcome fixation to sacred process focus. Seneca captured this perfectly. The wise man enjoys the journey without worrying about the harbor. Notice the contrast. Modern hustle burns you out chasing distant finish lines, while Stoicism fuels you by savoring each step. The difference isn't just philosophical, it's neurological. Studies show process-focused people experience less stress and more flow because they're wired to find meaning in the act itself, not just the trophy at the end. Take Olympic athletes. Research reveals that medalists who fixated solely on gold experienced post-game crashes, while those who cherished daily training maintained lifelong passion. The Stoics would nod. They saw effort as its own reward. Epictetus, who trained students in wrestling, didn't praise victories. He praised disciplined practice. Progress isn't measured by the opponent's fall, but by your stance when you rise. That's the pivot. When you detach from uncontrollable outcomes and attach to controllable effort, you stop gambling your worth on external validation. Here's how to drill this today. Grab a notebook and create 2 columns. Label one effort, the other outcome. For 1 week, log only what you did, not what it produced. Wrote 5 pages of a novel, that's effort. No publisher responded. Irrelevant to this log. Trained for 30 minutes. Worthy. Scale didn't budge, not your metric. This rewires your brain to honor showing up, not just scoring. Marcus Aurelius modeled this by journaling nightly about his actions, not his empire's expansions, but whether he'd acted with integrity, patience, and focus. Now, the probing question: where have you been mortgaging your joy for a payoff that may never come? That side project you abandoned because it didn't go viral. The friendship you neglected when life got busy. Stoicism teaches that excellence isn't a destination. It's how you brush your teeth, listen to a stranger, or craft a single sentence. Seneca wrote, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires for results." Not because outcomes don't matter, but because obsessing over them robs you of the power available right now, in this rep, this draft, this conversation. Try this reframe. Next time you're tempted to check metrics, sales, likes, scales, pause. Ask instead, did I give this my full presence? Because mastery lives in the 1,000 invisible hours before applause ever comes. As Epictetus put it, no great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. The vine doesn't fret over harvest day, it simply drinks the sun. And so must you. Anger is the storm that convinces us we're powerful right as it strips us of control. Marcus Aurelius saw through this illusion, writing, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it?" That's the paradox. Anger masquerades as strength while quietly eroding your authority. Drill 7 introduced the Stoic Pause, but this is its advanced application, turning that split-second gap between trigger and reaction into a laboratory for mastering fury. Start with the simplest yet most potent tactic. Name the emotion to tame it. Neuroscientists call this affect labeling, and it works like a circuit breaker for rage. When your partner forgets an important date or a driver cuts you off, don't just feel the heat, identify it aloud. This is anger. Those 3 words create critical distance, shifting you from participant to observer. Epictetus trained his students to do this by imagining emotions as separate entities. You are not your anger any more than a cloud is the sky. Now, dissect your triggers like a Stoic scientist. Grab a notebook and recreate your last 3 angry outbursts, not the justifications, the raw data. What physical sensations came first? Clenched jaw. Flushed skin. What distorted thoughts fueled it? They always disrespect me. This ruins everything. Marcus Aurelius kept such lists in Meditations, noting how often his worst fears never materialized. Anger thrives on generalizations. Dissection reveals their flimsiness. Here's the drill. Next time anger surges, engage in triage. 1. Body scan. Freeze and inventory physical signs. Racing heart, tense shoulders. This grounds you in biology, not narrative. 2. Clock it. Set a timer for 90 seconds, the average duration of a biochemical anger wave. Watch it peak and fall like a tide. 3. The courtroom test. Ask, would an impartial jury convict this person of malice, or is this my story? Most anger collapses under scrutiny. Seneca, who wrote an entire treatise on anger's futility, compared it to falling on your own sword. Modern studies confirm his insight. Angry people overestimate their influence while underestimating collateral damage. That co-worker whose incompetence makes you lash out. They'll remember the outburst long after forgetting the mistake that triggered it. Tonight, conduct an anger autopsy. Pick one recent flare-up and replay it in slow motion. At what point could a 5-second pause have rewritten the script? Because mastery here isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about redirecting its energy. As Marcus Aurelius practiced, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. The fire of anger only burns when you feed it. Starve it with stillness and watch it flicker out. Close your eyes and picture this. You're sitting across from Cotto the Younger, his piercing gaze locked onto yours as you describe your biggest challenge right now. The edges of his worn tunic are frayed from years of austerity, but his posture radiates unshakable resolve. What advice would this man, who chose death over compromising his principles, give you about your co-workers' petty comments or your paralyzing fear of failure? That's the power of role model meditation, a Stoic drill that turns historical giants into personal advisors. Epictetus didn't just encourage this, he mandated it. Every night, summon the wisest figures you admire and ask, what did I do today that mirrored their virtues? Where did I fall short? This isn't fantasy, it's deliberate training for your moral compass. Marcus Aurelius perfected this technique by mentally invoking his own mentors. In meditations, he doesn't just quote their wisdom, he converses with them, writing, "When you need encouragement, think of the qualities of those around you, their energy, their modesty, their generosity." Notice the specificity. He didn't vaguely imagine wise people. He recalled exact traits he wanted to absorb. That's the key. Your role models aren't abstract ideals. They're mirrors showing who you're capable of becoming. Here's how to practice this today. Pick one current struggle, maybe indecision about a career move or resentment toward a demanding friend. Now, mentally stage a council with 3 Stoic figures. Seneca leans forward first. Does this align with your deepest values, or are you chasing external validation? Musonius Rufus, the Stoic who taught in filthy exile, crosses his arms. What would you do if hardship were guaranteed? Finally, Portia Catinus, Cotto's daughter, locks eyes with you. Will this choice let you sleep with an unshaken soul? Their answers will surprise you, not because they're mystical, but because they're already etched in your understanding of their lives. Modern psychology validates this. Studies on mental contrasting show that vividly imagining admired figures tackling your obstacles activates the same neural pathways as real mentorship. The Stoics just cut out the middleman. Why wait for a living guru when history offers dozens? Tonight, try this twist. After your imaginary counsel, write their hypothetical advice in your non-dominant hand. The clumsiness forces you to slow down, engraving their words deeper. Epictetus warned, "You become what you give your attention to." So ask yourself, whose attention am I borrowing to sharpen my own? Because the voices you internalize today will whisper guidance in your darkest moments tomorrow. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Choose your mentors wisely and let their hues stain you indelible. Ever fired off an angry email only to wake up the next morning cringing at your own words? That gut punch of regret is exactly what the Stoics aim to prevent with their 24-hour rule, a cooling off period where emotions settle and clarity emerges. Seneca, who faced constant political provocations, wrote, "Time discovers truth like a furnace tests gold." He wasn't just poetically waxing about patience, he was prescribing a literal pause button for heated moments. Imagine if every reaction had to marinate for a full day before being unleashed, how many bridges would still be standing? Here's how it works in practice. When someone cuts you off in traffic, insults your work, or betrays your trust, your brain screams for immediate justice. But instead of indulging that impulse, you hit pause. Set a timer on your phone, 24 hours. If the offense still burns with the same intensity tomorrow, address it then, with precision, not fury. More often than not, you'll find the insult has shrunk to a footnote, or worse, revealed your own overreaction. I learned this the hard way when a colleague publicly criticized one of my projects. My fingers flew across the keyboard, drafting a scathing reply. but I forced myself to sleep on it. By dawn, I saw his critique wasn't malice. It was clumsily delivered insight. My revised response thanked him and incorporated his feedback, turning a potential feud into collaboration. The magic lies in neurology. Studies show the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, needs 18 to 24 hours to fully reset after a threat trigger. The Stoics didn't have fMRI machines, but they grasped this biologically. Anger is a temporary chemical state masquerading as a permanent truth. Marcus Aurelius would privately label perceived offenses in his journal, then revisit them days later. Most were crossed out with a single line, silent witnesses to storms that never needed weathering. Try this today. Scan your recent conflicts for one where instant reaction escalated tensions. Now mentally replay it with a 24-hour buffer. Would you have spoken differently, sent that text, quit that job? Seneca's letters reveal a pattern. His wisest decisions were those he slept on, while his regrets sprouted from haste. Modern life moves at dizzying speeds, but wisdom still walks at the pace of a Roman sandal. Your next offense will come, that's guaranteed. What's not is whether you'll let time be your ally or your accuser. As Epictetus put it, no great thing is created suddenly, least of all a measured response. So tonight, ask yourself, what fire could I have extinguished yesterday by simply waiting for the sun to rise? Your mind doesn't float separate from your body. It's wired into every muscle, every breath, every heartbeat. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who trained Epictetus, put it bluntly, how can a mind be sound in an unsound body? He wasn't advocating for six-pack abs. He was revealing a truth modern neuroscience confirms. Physical discipline is mental armor. Think of the last time you skipped sleep or slumped for hours. Your thoughts turned foggy, your patience thin. That's not coincidence, it's physiology. The Stoics didn't glorify pain, but they revered the body as the mind's first classroom. Epictetus, born with a leg deformed by slavery, still insisted, "You are a little soul carrying around a corpse." His point wasn't self-loathing, it was urgency. Your body isn't just a container, it's the instrument through which virtue becomes action. A weak instrument muffles even the strongest intentions. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, still carved time for weightlifting and cold plunges, not for vanity, but because he knew a sluggish body breeds sluggish judgment. Here's the drill, start small, but start daily. 5 minutes of intentional movement, whether it's stretching like a cat at dawn, a walk without headphones, or gripping a pull-up bar until your fingers protest. The goal isn't fitness metrics, it's the act of overriding comfort. When Musonius Rufus made his students dig gardens barehanded, he wasn't farming, he was teaching them to tolerate discomfort voluntarily. Modern life removes obstacles, Stoicism puts them back deliberately. Try this today, pair a physical challenge with a mental one, do push-ups while reciting a Stoic maxim. Hold a plank and visualize your toughest upcoming task. The body's strain quiets the mind's chatter. Science explains why. Physical stress releases BDNF, a protein that literally sharpens focus. The Stoics didn't know the biochemistry, but they grasped the effect. Strain the body, clarify the mind. Tonight, ask, where have I been treating my body as an afterthought? Not to shame, but to recognize every ache ignored, every breath held shallow, every restless night surrendered to screens. These aren't just physical choices. They're thefts from your future self's resilience. As Seneca wrote, the body must be treated more rigorously, so it may not be disobedient to the mind. Disobedient, what a word. Your legs refusing to rise early, your back slouching under stress, your hands trembling with caffeine. These aren't flaws. They're feedback. So tomorrow, before reaching for your phone at dawn, reach for your ankles instead. not to become an athlete, but to remind yourself discipline is indivisible. The body you neglect today will rebel when your mind needs it most, and the body you train, it becomes the silent ally that carries you through storms unshaken. What if your biggest fear came true tomorrow, not as a catastrophe, but as a test you'd already prepared for? That's the essence of the Stoic what-if game, a mental dojo where you spar with worst-case scenarios before they ever arrive. Seneca, who faced exile, illness, and betrayal, wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, because most dread shrivels under the light of preparation." This drill isn't about catastrophizing, it's about vaccinating your mind with foresight. Picture this, you're about to pitch a client who could make or break your quarter. Instead of chewing your nails with "what if I fail," flip the script. Ask, "What if I fail, then what?" Maybe you'd leverage the feedback to refine your offer, or tap a network contact for a referral. Suddenly, the monster under the bed has blueprints. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, rehearsing adversity to disarm its sting. When Seneca imagined losing his wealth, he didn't just wince. He mapped out living in a modest hut, writing, "Poverty brought into the open is less tormenting." By pre-solving problems, he turned fear into a checklist. Here's how to play the game. 1. Name your dragon. Pick one tangible worry, a job loss, a breakup, a health scare. Not vague anxiety, but something specific like, "What if my car breaks down before the interview?" 2. Stoic brainstorming. Channel Seneca's exile mindset. "If this happens, what's my first move?" For the car scenario, Uber funds set aside, a backup ride share contact, walking shoes in the trunk. 3. The silver plunge, go a layer deeper. How might this actually help me? Maybe the breakdown forces you to discover public transit routes, making you less dependent on the car long term. History's greatest strategists used this. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he didn't just hope for victory. He'd pre-arranged supply lines and escape routes. Modern psychology confirms the power studies show that mental contrasting, vividly imagining obstacles and solutions, increases goal achievement by over 20%. The key is balance. Don't just dwell on the storm, build the arc. Try this tonight. Grab a blank sheet. On the left, write your fear. On the right, 3 actionable counters. For example, fear. What if my startup runs out of funding? Counters: 1. Trim non-essential costs now. 2. Pitch 2 new investors weekly. 3. Develop a bare-bones revenue stream. The moment your plan B exists, plan A feels less fragile. As Epictetus put it, "The cucumber is bitter, throw it away. There are brambles in the path." Step aside, that's enough, don't add. Why do these things exist? Stoicism isn't about denying life's thorns, it's about always carrying gloves. So ask yourself, what's one fear I've been avoiding that could become my next drill? Not to feed the fear, but to forge the tools that render it harmless. Because the bravest aren't those who never feel afraid, they're the ones who have already walked through the fire in their minds and know exactly where the exits are. A smile isn't just a reaction to joy, it's a weapon against adversity, forged in the fires of Stoic discipline. Epictetus, the philosopher who turned a life of slavery into a masterclass on inner freedom, trained his students to command their expressions like generals commanding troops. Your face shouldn't be enslaved by your emotions. Let it obey reason instead. That's the power of the Stoic smile, not a mask to hide pain, but a lever to recalibrate your entire nervous system. Science now backs what the ancients knew. The simple act of smiling, even when forced, triggers dopamine and serotonin release, dialing down stress hormones like cortisol. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about rewiring your brain to find steadiness in the storm. Picture this, You're stuck in an endless grocery line, the cashier's scanner keeps failing, and your ice cream is melting. Your jaw tightens, your shoulders creep toward your ears. Classic frustration posture. Now try this instead. Lift the corners of your mouth just slightly. Not a performative grin, but a subtle, deliberate upturn. Notice what happens. Your breath deepens, the irritation loses its edge. The cashier, sensing your calm, relaxes too. That's the Stoic smile in action, a tiny physiological hack that shifts entire interactions. Marcus Aurelius used this in Senate debates, noting how a composed face could diffuse opponents better than any rebuttal. Here's your challenge today. Pick one predictable annoyance: a traffic jam, a slow-loading computer, a toddler's tantrum, and deploy the Stoic smile the moment tension arises. Don't wait to feel like it. Act first. Let the feeling follow. Epictetus was ruthless about this. You cry because your nose is running. Wipe it then, but must your mind run with it? His point: your face isn't a puppet to circumstances, it's a tool to master them. Afterward, reflect. Did the annoyance shrink, or did your capacity to handle it expand? Most discover it's the latter, like Seneca facing Nero's tyranny with quiet amusement, or James Stockdale surviving years as a POW by greeting each new torture with a grim smile. This drill proves a profound truth. Resilience isn't just what you endure, it's how you choose to wear it. The Stoic smile isn't denial, it's defiance. A silent reminder that no external chaos gets veto power over your inner peace. Tonight, stand before a mirror and rehearse. Not a toothy, performative smile, but the slight, knowing curve of someone who's tasted life's bitterness and still finds reason to tilt upward. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't roaring back at the storm, it's smiling through it just to prove you can. 500 years from now, when your name is spoken, if it's spoken at all, what will it conjure? A life of quiet integrity, or one cluttered with petty distractions? Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this daily, writing, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the essence of the legacy drill, not some abstract exercise in morality, but a ruthless filter for every decision. The Stoics called this sub specie aeternitatis, viewing actions under the lens of eternity, not to intimidate but to clarify. Consider two neighbors. One spends evenings scrolling through celebrity gossip, nursing grudges, and chasing promotions for status. The other reads to her children, tends a community garden, and writes letters to lonely elders. Fast forward a century, one existence leaves no ripple, the other echoes in the stories grandchildren tell. The difference isn't scale, it's intention. Seneca put it bluntly: life is long if you know how to use it. The legacy drill forces that reckoning not at life's end, but in the supermarket aisle, the traffic jam, the quiet moment before you hit send on that angry email. Here's how to practice it. Each morning, visualize your own eulogy. Not the sanitized version, but the raw truth. What would people honestly say about how you spent your time, treated strangers, or showed up in crises? Then invert it. What do you want them to say? The gap between those two answers is your daily to-do list. Epictetus took this further, advising students to live as if a wise observer were narrating their choices aloud. Not to perform for others, but to align with their own highest standard. History's most enduring figures operated this way. Beethoven, deaf and despairing, wrote, "I will seize fate by the throat," creating his masterpieces not for applause but for the ages. Marie Curie insisted her lab notebooks be preserved not to boast but to serve future scientists. Their legacy wasn't an afterthought, it was the compass. Try this tonight. Pull out a blank sheet. At the top, write the 3 sentences I want to define me. Beneath, craft them with ruthless honesty. She listened more than she spoke. He turned setbacks into classrooms. They left things better than they found them. Tape it where you'll see it daily, not as guilt but as grounding. Because legacy isn't built in grand gestures, but in the 1,000 tiny choices that become your fingerprint on the world. As Marcus Aurelius whispered to himself on the battlefield, "You're living now. You're dead later, the in-between make it worthy. The clock is ticking, but with each intentional act, you're not just passing time, you're etching your mark on eternity." From cold showers to premeditated adversity, from the pause between stimulus and response to the legacy you're consciously building, these 30 Stoic drills aren't just techniques. They're a complete mental and emotional gymnasium, each exercise designed to strengthen a different facet of your resilience, focus, and unshakable presence. Think of them like a blacksmith's tools. The hammer of negative visualization tempers your expectations, the chisel of voluntary hardship sculpts your discipline, and the anvil of journaling shapes your self-awareness. But here's the vital truth: Stoicism isn't a philosophy to admire behind glass like a museum exhibit. It's a workshop where you're both the craftsman and the raw material. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations as a theoretical exercise. He scribbled those words in the chaos of war camps, using them as a whetstone to sharpen his mind daily. This is the difference that changes everything. Stoicism doesn't ask, "Do you understand?" It demands, "Will you practice?" You could memorize every quote from Epictetus and Seneca, but without applying the drills, it's like owning a sword you never unsheathe. Real power comes from testing these principles in the laboratory of your own life. That awkward conversation you've been avoiding, that's today's drill mat. The frustration of a delayed flight, your chance to practice Ammer Fatty. Even now, as this video ends, you're standing at a crossroads. Will these ideas remain content you consumed, or will they become the scaffolding of your character? Marcus Aurelius left us a compass for moments like this. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice the verb realize, not ponder or debate, but act on this truth. So here's your first move. Don't overwhelm yourself by attempting all 30 drills at once. Pick one, just one. Maybe it's the 5-second rule to crush procrastination, or the evening journal to mine wisdom from your day. Master that single practice until it becomes second nature, then layer in the next. The Stoics believed every person is a spark of the divine, but sparks fade unless tended. Your mind, your will, your unbreakable calm, they're worth the daily kindling. If this resonated with you, join our community of modern Stoics. Hit subscribe and let's keep forging mental strength together, one drill at a time. Because the world doesn't need more spectators of wisdom, it needs practitioners, starting now, starting with you.